Welcome to all our wonderful friends in the High Five Live community. We are so excited to be together today, and you will be very rewarded for the opportunity to be here and to meet Tammy. And we'll introduce you to her in just a minute.
Yes, and while you're watching, we would love to see where you are watching from. So if you want to put that in the comments, we would love that. And any questions you have, put there too, and we'll try to get back to those. We are privileged today to have Tammy Murphy Rasmussen with us. She is an amazing woman, and you will learn to love her in a few minutes that we're together. Just a little bit about her. She and her husband live in a very rural area in eastern Utah, and they have been married for, going on 32 years, yes. Right? And together they have 7 children, 20 grandchildren, and 2 greats. And what we're going to talk about, too, is all of those children, but the many more that she has been a foster mom to. She is so well-rounded. I don't know how she finds time for everything, but she loves the outdoors. She loves traveling, doing crafts and scrapbooking and genealogy and photography. Did we get them all?
You got them all.
So, Tammy, we are just delighted to have you here. We found her. She was highly recommended from others who have worked in the field of fostering. And
especially our friends at Utah Youth Village.
Yes.
That have reached out and said Tammy is one of their great heroines. Well, there's our buddy.
That's right. Hello. Okay.
So it happens to be the end of Mother's Day week. We can't just have a Mother's Day. We have to have a Mother's Day week. So
that's right.
We're continuing to celebrate the wonderful gift that mothers give. And Tammy's such a great example of that. It also happens to be Foster Parent Awareness Month. So we're celebrating that also today because Tammy has had the privilege of fostering 57 plus.
And counting.
Ongoing and counting, yes.
And counting.
So Tammy, how did you get involved in foster parenting? We would love to know about that.
So I never really thought about fostering before, but I knew that my whole life, all I wanted was to be a mom, that I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want a job. I just wanted to be a mom. And so after I had my children and they started leaving home, it was hard. I went into like a mourning almost, and I cried, and I did not like my children not being with me. And I'm not saying I was ever the best parent, but I loved my children with every part of my being. And so as they were left one by one, there was just this emptiness. And I thought, I want to foster. I want to help and show these children what a family is like. And so I think that is how I really got into it, as just this yearning to be a mom.
Mm-hmm. Well, you are a mom.
I'm a mom.
You're definitely a mom. Not many people are a mom to over 70 people. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So tell us what it's like in your home then. Most of your children are grown. Now you have these little ones again in your home. But while you were fostering, how were your children influenced by that? And your husband, you have to have a wonderfully supportive husband.
Oh my gosh, my husband is, I am like the queen. I remind him that. I remember having my patriarchal blessing and it said I was the queen, and I let him remember that. And so, and he treats me, I mean, anything I want, honey, let's do foster care. Okay. You know, it's just like, he goes along with everything. He's so easygoing and so laid back. And so that was never an issue with him. He just is like, you know, I work, so it's going to be on you. I'm like, I know, you know, and so I know, but I still had 2 girls at home. And so it was difficult, and I wouldn't say so much difficult, but to have youth come in that were the same age as them, was difficult for them, because it was like a competition, even at school. I remember my youngest one, she was in the sixth grade, I think. And I was an aide at the school actually at the time. And there was this little girl that stood out to me, and you could tell that her life wasn't perfect. And so when I decided to do foster care, and she was kind of a rude little girl to me, and I was like, oh, you're just so dang cute, but you're so naughty. So they called and they says, hey, we have this little gal. And I was like, okay. And I opened the door, and it's this little girl. And she bullied my daughter at school and everything. And she opened when she seen me, she's like, Mrs. Rasmussen. And I'm like, well, hi, come on in. And she was just like, oh my gosh, you could see the blood just went from her face. And she was just like, I'm going to die. And so, but my daughter and her are super close friends. She's come down, brought her babies. She's married with children and everything, and they're really close now. In the home, they were not so close.
That was hard.
And so, but so I did take a break when my two girls got into high school, and I took a break from foster care because I wanted to focus, their last years of high school, just strictly on them and them not having to share me. They already had to share me because I was also raising one of my granddaughters that I had since she was a baby. And so just to have that focus and be able to do things with them in the school programs that they were in, like the FFA, and be able to travel and go places with them without having to worry about having, youth that I needed to find care for or whatever. And so I did take a break from them for them and stuff. And so other than that, they've been pretty receptive. My adult kids, I think sometimes there's a little bit of jealousy. They're like, you never did that with us, And so I think there's a little bit, but, for the most part, I mean, there's some of these kids that they absolutely adore and love. And there's some that they're like, man, Mom, I don't know how you do it.
Wow.
I'm sure there are so many people that wonder how you do it.
There is. They're just like, how do you do it? And, now I've started again with a baby again. I have a little 6-month-old baby again, which was a complete shock.
You just have a heart of gold, Tammy.
It seems like children from these kind of difficult backgrounds have a really hard time loving and receiving love and accepting trust. What ways have you found that help that process for these kids to receive the love that they need so desperately?
It's all on their timeline, honestly, because they come from such a diverse background that they totally feel, I mean, they've been told that, nobody wants them, nobody loves them. I've witnessed that in a courtroom, where a mother stood up and says, I'm done. I don't want this, don't want her anymore. And to see, the look on that child's face, children that are born into the gangs and stuff, that's the lifestyle they know. No, honey, just a minute. And so they feel it's just the society that they're in. They feel unlovable, unwanted, and they can't imagine that somebody that's not even related to them would even care about them, let alone open their home to them. And so many times, I had a little gal that I absolutely love, and, she was having a rough time. And so she thought running was going to be the answer. And I found her within a few hours and everything, and she was just sobbing. And I says, come on. I says, it's okay. And she goes, why is it okay? And she says, I ran. And I says, you made a mistake, and mistakes happen, and hiccups happen in the road all the time. And she says, why do you care? And, she was just sobbing. And I says, I love you. And I am here for you, and it doesn't matter. And, she just could not understand how I was able to love her, because in her eyes, she was unlovable. And I mean, still to this day, I mean, she is like one of my favorite favorite girls. She's had the roughest time and she still struggles, but you know, she's a good girl.
She's got a foundation because of you.
Right. You know, and so many, I mean, my very first youth that I ever had, she actually called me the other day and she's like, Mom, how do you make meatloaf? And stuff, you know. And so, you know, there's these things that they remember. And she says, you always made the best food. And so, you know, I have 2 boys. I switched over to boys in December. I took a break from girls. I've always only done girls until I had this little boy that was placed with us 6 years ago. And I switched to boys, and it's quite refreshing. And they're just like, you know, they had a hard life, but they're just so open to the affection and, you know, the encouragement that they get and everything. And it's just like every time, you know, something positive is said to them, they want to do better. They
Wow.
just are pleasers and they want to make you happy. And these kids are just looking for stability and love. So many of them, it's not the kids, it's the parents who have given up on their kids and have chosen a different lifestyle other than being a parent.
And sometimes those children who are older and have had more experiences, hard experiences, are the most difficult to place in foster care.
And they're
right?
the easiest to love. You know, I don't know. I love my teenage kids. I would take, and that's mostly what I did was teenage girls, but I would take a teenager over an 8-year-old, over, you know, the 5-year-olds, even the babies. The babies don't sleep at night. I'm tired.
Do teenagers sleep at night?
I sleep in a recliner so that the baby doesn't wake up my husband. And so it's tough, but you know, these older kids, they are so hungry for acceptance and just wanting to be loved and to fit into a family.
Mm-hmm. So you took a 19-year-old from Russia. Do you want to tell us about that?
She was only in the system because there was nobody else. There was no family. She needed to learn some independent living skills. But her adoption, I think she had a couple of failed adoptions. And so they just didn't work out. So obviously being from Russia, there was no biological family here. And so, you know, I talked to the caseworker and I says, I cannot teach her anymore. She needs the chance. She wants to be on her own and she needs to prove that she can do it. And so we kind of worked out a plan with her and everything. And the caseworker says, you know, I think you're right. They helped her get into a place. They helped her, you know, with her rent for 3 months. And she went on and went to college. I think it was just a technical college, but she still went and did this on her own. And she got a degree. And it was a couple of years later. And I seen her on a program called Wednesday's Child. It's a local news channel that, you know, highlights a child every Wednesday and stuff. And she was begging for her forever family. And she says, I want a family to call my own, that I have a place to go to on the holidays. I want to be able to call if I break down in the middle of the night and say, Dad, I'm broke down. Can you help me? She says, I don't want a family to support me. I can do that. I want a family to love me, that I have a place to go to.
Yeah.
And a family from Indiana adopted her, seen the program, and they adopted her and everything. And so she found her forever family. And so it's, yeah.
Oh, and you worked hard to find a forever family that one of your foster daughters didn't know she had, right? And you did some research.
A biological family. I mean, she knew she had a few siblings because they were all adopted together. She didn't know anything about her biological family or anything. And her adoptive family wasn't really given a lot of information out. They finally give her a name, a last name, and she kind of knew an area because they had lived in that area before. And so I spoke with the caseworker to get permission to search to see if we could do that. And I happened to, go to this area and searched the names, and I found a name that matched. And I think that I found 3 names, and I was just like, okay, this is a really dumb question, but do you happen to know anybody by this name? And they're like, yes, that is my sister. And so he actually even said that he had this child when she was a newborn for 3 weeks. He says, I raised her. He says, I had her as a newborn because my sister could not, and found out that she had 12 siblings. One had recently passed away from diabetes. So we found a lot of medical history out as well, which, a lot of these kids have no idea, especially if they had been adopted. They don't know their medical history. And so there's a lot of medical history that she found out, and connected with several of her siblings that she had no idea she even had brothers. And there was, twin brothers, and there was a brother that actually lives in Idaho, which isn't too far from where she's at now, and everything. And so they're still trying to work out the arrangements and everything to get together and actually see face to face. They FaceTime all the time, and he's trying to get it to where he can actually take custody of her. And she'll have her family as well.
Talk about gathering and blessing people's lives. It's just amazing. So how do you maintain such capacity to love? You are an amazing example, Tammy. And
how do you nourish yourself through all this?
Like I said, that's all I ever wanted, was just to be a mom. And I absolutely, with all of my heart, these kids are so important to me. And I have fought in the schools for these kids, and I have gone to battle for these kids. I have, even went up against some of their caseworkers and says, you guys, this is not right. You need, this is what this child needs and stuff. And so it's, I don't know what it is. I just love with my whole heart these kids. These kids are so important, and they're being just, forgotten. So many people, there may be a lot of people that want to foster, but they want to foster the cute little babies. They see a teenager or hear of a teenager in foster care, and they think, oh, that's a troubled youth. It's not a troubled youth. It's a youth who has been pushed to the side and forgotten, and is just looking for somebody to love them. And, they crave that structure in a home, and they want rules. They're not rule breakers. They look forward to rules. Yeah, they may push limits and everything, but they're good kids. And that's what I just wish people would look at, look at these kids. They're looking, they're waiting for somebody,
Well, we know your example is going to help so many. And we have thought a lot this week about that beautiful moment when the Savior is going to return and look to the people on his right hand, and he's going to say, I was hungered and you gave me meat. I was naked and you clothed me. You have been such an example of that wonderful service to his wonderful children. And we are going to be different because we've had a chance to meet you, Tammy. Today has been very sacred and special to us, and we're so grateful for the great example you are.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for being with us. And to all of our viewers, please share this. Please share this beautiful broadcast and Tammy's experiences. You can share right from High Five Live. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.